Hey guys, Break here, and today we're going to be talking about the awesome new profession changes which are coming in Shadowlands, and I'll give you my thoughts on what I think the best professions for gold making could be. Now, the general theme of professions in Shadowlands is just going back to a kind of old style profession gameplay where professions were really useful, and lots of things that have been taken away in previous expansions from professions are now being brought back, a bit like they've done with classes really. The same's happening to professions, and some of them are really awesome. So lots of things that were kind of relevant in Classic WoW. Maybe Blizzard have seen how well Classic has been doing in terms of professions, and they've kind of wanted to copy that for the new expansion. But either way, let's go over some of the changes. So Alchemy, of course, have the normal potions and flasks and everything that they always have, but they're also introducing oils. Now, these are weapon oils, a bit like they have in Classic, and you put them on your weapon and they last for sort of 10 minutes or for 15 seconds, so a bit like a little potion, and they give you different things. So this embalmer's oil, for example, it gives you a chance to heal yourself and get a shield, so maybe it's good for, well, it's good for anyone really, but especially for tanks. And then the Shadow Core oil, which gives you a chance to proc additional shadow damage, lasts for 10 minutes. So this is really cool. It kind of adds a whole new thing to Alchemy and kind of makes Alchemy a bit different, gives them sort of an enchant. This is almost like an enchant, like a short-term enchant to your weapon, and it's awesome because these are just going to be two things that you can sell. I mean, I presume they're going to be bind on equip. I'm pretty sure that they will be, and yeah, people are going to obviously be buying them because it's just extra damage. So, you know, now you're not just going to have to stock up on your flasks and your potions, you'll also have to stock up on your oils if you want to be the best raider you can be, and that just gives Alchemy a whole nother thing to sell, and it's great for the profession, so I'm really pleased with that. And these oils also seem to interact with some of the potions. For example, this potion here, your attacks and spells have a chance to send out a fiery projection at your target. If you consume this potion while your weapon is augmented with Shadow Core oil, the damage is increased by 10%. And same with all of these, they kind of interact with some of the potions. So again, that means oils are going to be really, really good, and it means some of these potions are going to be cool. So I'm really excited to see how good these are, how much they're used in dungeons and raids, and I think it's just really good for the profession in general. And there is also this other thing, Alchemical Concoction, which means when you craft something, and you can kind of add this concoction to the craft. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but you kind of add it in when you're crafting it, and that means that any flasks are going to last longer on your character. So again, this kind of really is like an enchant, because surely every single player is going to want to have one of these pieces of gear on their character, because like it says, it just means when you wear this piece of gear, it increases duration of flasks, and I guess it's just all the time. So this is going to be something that maybe every single player wants to have at least one of on their character, and yeah, it's going to be pretty powerful, I think, and it's just another great thing for Alchemy. So moving on to Blacksmithing, and obviously they have the usual things, so crafting different pieces of gear. Also, I'm pretty sure you can craft legendaries in Shadowlands, though they haven't been specific about how exactly that's going to happen, but I know sort of blacksmithing, you'll be able to craft some sort of blacksmithing legendary item, I believe. But blacksmithing is also introducing the Sharpening Stones. And again, these are another sort of weapon-y enchant, lasts for an hour and just increases weapon damage. Again, I don't know how strong these are going to be, but obviously if you are a melee class, these are going to be useful. And yeah, gives blacksmiths something extra, which they didn't have before. I do have a problem with crafting professions, is that in general they only really offer sort of gear. That's pretty much the only thing you can make for them that will make gold. There's a couple of other like toys and other things, but realistically it's just the gear that makes you gold, and I always think that these crafting professions need something else, something that will sell kind of regularly, and something like a Sharpening Stone is something that's going to sell regularly. And hopefully they make it interesting how you craft them, but this is something that's cool, and hopefully it kind of stays in the game. Hopefully they don't remove it in alpha, kind of the same for all of these, because these are such big changes. and I'm hoping they don't just decide, nah, it's not worth it, let's remove it before it comes into the live game. I really hope they don't do that. But yeah, Sharpening Stones for blacksmithing seems pretty cool. Moving on to cooking, there's nothing too interesting that's happening, but there are a couple of new things. So specific foods are going to have specific increased effects in different zones. So the Bastion zone witch is going to have increased effect in Bastion, and it's also going to have increased effects for the specific covenant. So if you're a member of that covenant, it's going to be better for you. Don't really know how well these are going to work, but should be interesting to see. They're also introducing a couple of utility foods. So this pinwheel allows you to sort of burp at people, dealing damage. This regen witch, I guess it is, I guess causes you to regenerate your health. And the speed one obviously increases your speed after killing an enemy, so that's a bit like the, I can't remember what it was called, that food buff that increases speed whenever you kill something, so that's going to be probably pretty powerful in farming old content, just like the original food. Now for enchanting, I think enchanting is probably the best profession in the game. It's always really, really good, and in Shadowlands they're making it even better, which is good for me because my main character is enchanting. So in BFA they removed lots of the enchants, but they're bringing them back now in Shadowlands, so you can now enchant chest, cloak, boots, braces and gloves, which is awesome. And like you can enchant them with the main stats. It's not like they have a sort of dodgy stat that you have to enchant them with, like gloves to increase profession, skill or whatever like they have in BFA. But no, you can now enchant all of these with your best stats, and it just means more sales for enchanters, so good for them. There are also new weapon enchants coming in, as there always are, kind of the same as everything else, so nothing too new there. They always bring in new weapon enchants. But just like in previous expansions, though not for a while I don't think, they are bringing sort of reagents for other professions. So just like in Classic, you can make enchanted sort of items, you can do the same now in Shadowlands. Enchanted Desolate Leather, Enchanted Lightless Silk, and Enchanted Desolate Leather again, but I presume there's one for Blacksmithing that Wowhead just haven't updated. So yeah, you can enchant cloths and leathers to make sort of special cloth and leather that I presume will be made useful for specific crafts. So like a high level craft for leather workers, they're going to need some enchanted desolate leather, and enchanters are now going to be able to do that. So something even more good that they can craft and make, and yeah, I suppose that's going to make them even more gold. And I don't think I can say enough how big it is that they're bringing back enchants for 5 things. It's like doubling or tripling the current items that you can enchant, and it just means there's a lot more gear and to be enchanted, and a lot more money to be made. And I think enchanting will be one of the best professions yet again in Shadowlands. Coming to engineering, again they're having some fun new items that they always bring in, and Shadowlands is no different. So wormhole generator, they always bring those in. There's different landmines, a grenade, and a teleportation unit, which is quite cool. You get like a little blink. Engineering is also getting some cool belt enhancements. So permanently attach a miniature wormhole generator, allowing you to teleport. That's really, really cool. Permanently attaches a device to your belt, allowing you to turn invisible while out of combat. Again, really cool. Is that going to replace sort of invisibility potions? It depends how it works, really. And then the damage retaliator, which causes you to reflect damage. This is great. I think this is really, really good because, again, engineering is not the best profession for gold making, probably one of the worst. But adding these in, these are going to be items that anytime you get a new belt, someone is going to want to get the belt enhancement for it. So this, again, is going to be an item that will sell consistently throughout the expansion. And just like I said with blacksmithing, they're now getting something that will sell regularly rather than just a bit of gear. Same with engineers. Rather than just making gear, they can now make something that lots of people will buy regularly, such as a belt enhancement, and I think that is great. Moving on to Jewelcrafting, and nothing too exciting. There's just going to be the classic gems, but they are also making gems which allow you to sort of decide which crafting stat you get on your crafting gear. So there seems to be a few items they're adding to the game that you kind of combine when you're crafting to change the craft. So we talked about before the Alchemical Concoction, which you add to the gear when you craft it, and it means that that gear is going to make your flask last longer. Well, it's a similar thing with the new gem clusters that are coming in. So you can add this to an item when you're crafting it, and it will guarantee that you have that same stat to the crafted item. Now, this is something that lots of players have been complaining about. They want to make gear, they want to craft gear, but then it just has the wrong stats. Well, not anymore. You can now guarantee the right stats by adding, say, a haste gem into your craft when you're making some blacksmithing hands. You add the haste gem, and then suddenly, when it's created, it will have haste as the secondary stat. Now, I'm really interested to know if this is going to work for BOE gear, because as you guys may know, certain crafted gear sells a lot better than others depending on the stats. For example, say Warrior's best stat is haste, and you craft some blacksmithing plate hands that have versatility, it's not going to sell for as much as some blacksmithing plate hands that have haste, if a Warrior's best stat is haste, say. But now you're going to be able to add the haste gem to it to guarantee that you can make those haste stats, and yeah, it's just going to mean more gold for you, and it should be really cool. Again, it adds another level of depth to the profession gameplay, because you can do things like scan the auction house, see if there is a specific item or specific secondary stat that isn't there, and then you can kind of make that and price it higher. For example, you go on the auction house and you see there's some blacksmithing hands with versatility, with mastery, with crit, but there's none with haste. Suddenly you can go, oh, I'm going to guarantee that my one has haste, add it to the auction house, price it for higher, and see if it will sell. Don't know if it's going to work this way. Hopefully it will. And yeah, like I say, it's going to add a level of depth to the gameplay which everyone wants with professions. And finally, we have leatherworking. And leatherworking is actually pretty cool. So they are bringing back some drums of fury. As we have seen in the past, they're bringing these back. Apparently they're not as good. They only give you 15% instead of like 25 or 30% that they gave before. But still, it's something worthwhile. And leatherworkers can also create these stamina kits, just like the armor kits that again were in Classic. So the heavy Desolate armor kit, which increases the stamina of an item for 2 hours, and this increases the stamina of an item for 2 hours. It's just something extra. Again, if you want to completely min and max, then you're going to have a lot of armor kits in your bag, and you're just going to be constantly adding it to your gear. Will it work in raids? I presume it will. I presume it will work just the same in any piece of content. And this is going to be good, especially for tanks. I presume all tanks are going to have to buy these, obviously, to make sure they have as much stamina as possible. And again, they are trying to add things to these crafting professions that aren't just gear. We've seen it with blacksmithing, seen it with engineering, and with leatherworking, it's the same thing. They don't have tailoring on this Wowhead guide, but I presume it's going to be the same sort of thing with tailoring. They'll have something extra, maybe like some spell thread that they can add to their shoulders. I think you used to be able to add sort of spell threads to shoulders or something with tailoring, and I'm pretty sure they're going to bring that back because they brought it back for all the other professions. So I presume tailoring will have something similar, and yeah, it's really good because it just means more things to sell, more depth to the professions, and it means crafting professions can actually start competing with the likes of alchemy and enchanting, which usually they haven't been as good as in the past. Now, one thing we haven't talked about yet is Inscription, but there are a couple of cool things coming to Inscription. Obviously, they have the new Dark Moon cards, which will be very powerful at the start of the expansion, as they always are. However, they are also giving Inscription this word of power, which seems to increase the item level of crafted armor. Now, this is really interesting because, obviously, as you guys might have heard, I don't think there's going to be any Titan forging or war forging in the new expansion. And pieces of gear you're going to be able to upgrade, particularly crafted gear you can upgrade. And it looks like Inscription is the profession that is going to be used to upgrade the gear. So these words of powers, hopefully they're not too easy to make, because if they are, they're probably just going to be not very profitable. But if they add a little level of depth to them and they make them slightly interesting, maybe this could be a great little market for scribes. I'm not too confident because it just seems like something that's fairly easy to make, and you just have to add a few things together and it's going to be able to upgrade things. I don't know. We will see. We will see, but it is cool, and again, it gives something extra to Inscription, which they probably did need. Looks like they're also giving Inscription a couple of other new things, such as the Writ of Grave Robbing, which allows you to open up locks. That's like the keys they used to have with Blacksmithing. Now they're giving it to scribes for some reason. Nothing too exciting for Inscription, but it depends how these item upgrades actually work, whether it will be worth it or not. We will see. Anyway, guys, that is it. What do I think is the best? Well, obviously Enchanting is always really good, and they've just made it even better. You know, be able to like make enchanted leather, enchanted silk that you can sell. Be able to have so many more enchants than just the ones in BFA, which there aren't that many. Having cool new enchants, I don't know, it's just great, and I think Enchanting will be really, really powerful. And I also like alchemy, like I say, with the alchemical concoctions and the wizard oil, the embalmer's oil and the shadow court oil. It just brings sort of a few extra things to the alchemy sort of toolkit that is different from the classic flasks and potions, which will obviously still be there. I'd still like to see a couple more interesting things. Hopefully they have some new transmutes and some fun things like that for alchemy. But for now, I think alchemy is looking really good because it was already good and they've just made it better. However, I am really interested to see how some of the crafting professions get on. I don't think they're going to be as good as the likes of alchemy and enchanting for gold making. They never seem to be, but they're definitely trying, and some of these things, particularly blacksmithing, they've got the sharpening stones, like I say, and leatherworking, they have the stamina kits, and I presume tailoring will have the spell threads, and it depends how good they are, how many people use them, but it could be a really good niche bit of gold making, and maybe if you're on a high pop server where alchemy is really not profitable for you, then maybe you can switch to something like leatherworking, and it's going to really help you out in terms of finding a niche bit of gold making potential. Anyway, guys, that is it for this video. Thank you for watching. I'm super excited about how professions are looking in Shadowlands, and hopefully I can get onto the alpha soon and actually test them out myself. Who knows? Please, Blizzard, let me on the alpha. Anyway, thanks for watching, and until next time, see ya.